We are going to do a fact sort. George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. I'm going to read the first fact. I did not live in the White House. Let's see if this is George Washington or Abraham Lincoln. I'll read it one more time. I did not live in the White House. That's George Washington. I am on the $5 bill. Is that George Washington or Abraham Lincoln? I am on the $5 bill. That's Abraham Lincoln. Next fact. I am on the $1 bill. George Washington or Abraham Lincoln? That is George Washington. I was the first president of the United States. Would that be George Washington or Abraham Lincoln? That's George Washington. I am on the penny. Is that George Washington or Abraham Lincoln? That's Abraham Lincoln. I am on the quarter. George Washington, Abraham Lincoln. That's George Washington. I was the 16th President of the United States. Is that George Washington or Abraham Lincoln? I'll read it again. I was the 16th President of the United States. That is Abraham Lincoln. I was the leader of the military when America fought the British. I'll read it one more time. I was the leader of the military when America fought the British. Is that George Washington or Abraham Lincoln? I'll give you a second to think. That is George Washington. I was president for 4 years. Should we put that under George Washington or Abraham Lincoln? Let's read it again. I was president for 4 years. That is Abraham Lincoln. My wife was named Martha. George Washington or Abraham Lincoln? My friends, that is George Washington. I always wanted to be a lawyer. I always wanted to be a lawyer. Is that George Washington or Abraham Lincoln? That is Abraham Lincoln. I was a very good soldier. I'll read it again. I was a very good soldier. That is George Washington. My nickname was Honest Blank. My nickname was Honest Blank. That, my friends, is Abraham Lincoln. I love to study math. I'll give you a second to think. That is Abraham Lincoln. People call me the father of our country. People call me the father of our country. That, my friends, is George Washington. I was assassinated. I was assassinated. That is Abraham Lincoln. I'll move the facts up. was president for 8 years. I was president for 8 years. Is that George Washington or Abraham Lincoln? Let's take a minute to think. That's George Washington. My wife was named Mary. My wife was named Mary. George Washington or Abraham Lincoln? My friends, that is Abraham Lincoln. I had to wear false teeth. Is that George Washington or Abraham Lincoln? My friends, that is George Washington. I love to read books. George Washington or Abraham Lincoln? My friends, that is Abraham Lincoln. I was president during the Civil War. I was president during the Civil War. George Washington or Abraham Lincoln? That is Abraham Lincoln. And last but not least, I wanted slavery to end. Was that George Washington or Abraham Lincoln? My friends, that is Abraham Lincoln.